At this time, we are very, very pleased to introduce the first speaker of this panel, which is Sister Fravia Marquez Silva. She is a career diplomat at the Foreign Ministry of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela since 2002. She is a graduate in foreign relations at the Central University of Venezuela. She is a member of the group of diplomats who returned, I say, to the Venezuelan homeland from the embassy in Washington, D.C. back in January 2019. She is a charge d'affaires of Venezuela in Jamaica and the commissioner for international relations and social struggles of the platform of the Anti-Imperialist Working Class, PCOA. And she's also a member of the Afrodescent Cumbe Internacional. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Sister Fravia Marquez, who will be representing the Bolivian Republic of Venezuela, Bolivarian, let me put it like Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Sister Marquez, you there, sis?
So thank you everyone. So, well, my name is Fravia Marquez. Thank you for having me here today. Representing the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. And as you said, I wear several hats. I am a diplomat, but also I am an Afro activist, and I work in this platform you mentioned from workers, which means that I work also with unions and grassroots movements in Venezuela and around the world. And I think this is a common characteristic for all women here and everywhere. We always wearing several hats, and that's why it is so important and visible our role in society. Well, regarding my country, as maybe some of you already know, we had the luck and we pay our price in history. So we had President Chavez bringing the issue, he brought the issue, if you want to call it issue, of women and the role in society. He put women in the front of the struggle, recognizing all the effort and all the value we add to society and to all the areas in Venezuela and in the world, but especially in Venezuela. He always said that the face of the revolution was a woman, still a woman. And he was not only speaking about the like in a speech, he was able to canalize that, to tune that into actual achievements for the women in Venezuela. We started having a bank for the women's. We have a ministry of the women in Venezuela. We have laws. And we have spaces in all the executive branch, but also the legislative. For instance, recently we held legislative elections last year in December. Some of the people here was there as official observers, and 40% of the women in our National Assembly got elected. We're 40%. We are chairing committees, like the Committee of Foreign Affairs. The vice chair is a woman. The first vice president of the National Assembly, so the second one in the chain of command, is a woman. And like so in all the other powers. But certainly, that also brings us to a big issue inside Venezuela, because when you have so much support or recognition, sometimes you get used to that. And you are in danger of putting aside the struggle, or sometimes uncomfortable with the achievements or the spaces you already are given, because you want it, but you already have them. And that's the moment we're living in Venezuela, especially after the sanctions that coming from the United States mainly, but also from the European Union. The role of the women in Venezuela after these sanctions hit it hard, especially after 2017, I will say that they were increased, especially in the financial sector, and also the effects of the pandemic have put our country again in a road we separated before. It has bring some underdevelopment to the high level of life or way of life we were before, but also have bring us together again in the struggle. And I can say that's something that we are working now as a woman in Venezuela in general. In some cases, even across party, not only the political party PSUV, which is the government party, I'm part of that party too, but also in other parties that are not necessary from, sympathize with the government, is the issue of femicide. In Venezuela now, that is the main topic since several years ago, I would say like more than 4. That's the new struggle here. We're trying to get laws, especially designed for that. We are visibilizing it, trying to visualize it, to put it on the upfront again, because as we were discussing before, when the gentleman was talking about maybe different of gender, our societies, especially in Latin America, like with racism, which is very silent here. And that's why you will find people that would say it doesn't exist because we're mestizos. I won't go to that debate right now. We can talk later. But it's the same sometimes with women. And maybe in Latin America, it goes less noticed than in other countries, like empowering the women, like learn education to learn when you are being discriminated, when you're being sexualized. That's something that is being not reborn, but being rediscovered, I would say, in Latin America. And Venezuela being a country that comes from the oil industry, we have a very special situation in that sense, in all the senses, but in that sense too, especially. Why? Because we work for a socialism of the 21st century. We are building the revolution constantly. We're struggling, but we still have a very capitalistic point of view in a lot of things. And sometimes people that is in the revolution and is loyal, they don't notice. And I'm sure this happens around the world in several countries, but especially in Venezuela, something is like cohabit both models. It's like they are living together. And all the time you have to go check back and forth, because it's like other sisters said before, like the way we raise our men, our boys, our children, how we also keep, oh, sorry, I think my jacket's interfering. You can listen better now. Thank you. So it's the way also, if you are coming from such a capitalistic influence because you are an oil country since the 40s, since the 60s, the 70s, you have all that media culture influence. You're the first country in the northern part of South America. You receive everything first. You are very fashionable. You are known because you're supposed to have the most beautiful women in the world, because most of people before Chavez knew Venezuela only because of oil and because Miss Universe. There is a lot of weight on the backs of the women in Venezuela because of that history, and also because of the Latino machista history that most of women still put in the education of the children without knowing it. So I wanted to make a very brief presentation, like opening several issues so we can discuss later about the situation right now in Venezuela and the struggle we have and this moment of transition, because revolutions are always changing. We cannot say we're still there, especially with, inflation is very bad in Venezuela, and women are always up front of everything. As Sherry was commenting before, and my sister Sherry in the chat, there's no revolution where women didn't have a main role. It's only that we didn't appear maybe in the books. In the case of Venezuela, one of the policies has been also that since Chavez was president, and with President Nicolas Maduro too. we are bringing up the Venezuelan women, for instance, that fight in the independence, especially the Afro women, because as other sisters said, of course, we suffer because of gender, because of race and all of that, but also that opens other avenues to keep the struggle. That will be all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sister. Thank you again. I was just making a few notes. I appreciated your comments, and it shows us that the revolution in Venezuela is continuing to unfold. Many of us are subjected to like a lot of misinformation, false truths about the struggle as it exists in other parts of the world. And so your words and your information is giving us more insight into the real deal, into what's really happening in the revolutionary struggles that continue throughout the world.